In this short video, I'm going to share with you how to set up a profitable deal sourcing business. Hi, my name is Mark Lloyd. I'm co-founder of Property Master Academy. I'm an investor now for over 17 years. When I first started investing in property, I listened to my mentor, and as a result of that, I actually found too many properties. Now, that's a nice position to be in, but when you're starting out, trying to buy more than maybe 2 or 3 properties at once is really, really hard. So his suggestion was I started to source those on, and that's how I started my sourcing business. Just basic property sourcing, which I'll cover in a second, and that helped me through my very first year in property investing. So what do you need to run a successful deal sourcing business? Well, firstly, you need to understand the deal sourcing business. I would suggest perhaps attending some training. We offer a training course. If you want to find out more details, please post in the comments below. But part of that, you'll need to also become compliant. Now, what does that mean? Well, essentially, there are some things that you need to register with because your actions as a deal sourcer come under the Estate Agents Act. So you're doing a very similar role to what an estate agent does. And there are 4 things that you need to be compliant with. Firstly, you need to register with HMRC for anti-money laundering purposes. Now, I know you're not going to actually touch clients' money, but unfortunately, you still need to be registered. Secondly, you need to be registered with a redress scheme. Now, there's 2 main schemes in the UK, the Property Redress Scheme and the Property Ombudsman. That's a legal requirement, so 2 of those you'd have to belong to. For the Property Ombudsman, you will also need to have a professional indemnity insurance before you can actually complete your Property Ombudsman application. With the Property Redress Scheme, it's the other way around. You can join and then get your insurance. And then lastly, you need to register with the Information Commissioner's Office for GDPR, for data protection purposes. So there are 4 main legal requirements that you need to have to become a compliant deal sourcer. And that applies to anybody that wants to source properties from end users to buyers. Once you've got your compliance sorted out, next thing is to get your bank account sorted. Now, it may be that you may want to have a client money protection account as well, particularly if you're going to take client deposits. So you will need that second account as well, and potentially you might need client money protection insurance as well. But that depends on the route you have to go down. You don't have to necessarily take any money from a client initially before the deal is done, but most people do. So what is deal sourcing really about? Well, it's often to hear the term deal sourcing and packaging, and they are 2 separate things, but when combined provides a fantastic service. But before you start going down that route, what I would suggest is you need to decide on which strategy or niche you're going to follow, because the best deal sourcing is done that way. You can of course try and source for everything, but that's going to be very difficult if you're just starting out and if you've not done much training. You're not going to understand the ins and outs of each strategy. So I suggest focusing on one strategy in one area to begin with, and then finding obviously the investors. So now you've decided on the niche or the strategy you're going to follow. Next, you really want to start finding investors. Now, the best way of doing this is actually to find the investors first before you start to find the deals. It's a much better way and you'll earn more money by doing so. But there are essentially 2 different ways of doing this. You can either find the investors first or just find the deals and then blanket market to a huge database of investors. Now, of course, if you're just starting out, that's not going to really work. You'll probably have to co-source with somebody else that's already got a large database, and that can be done. That's one of the things I did when I very first started out. I wasn't too sure whether I wanted to do deal sourcing long term, so I just worked with someone who had a large database of investors. But as we progressed, I then narrowed that down and became more focused in what I was looking for. I started to focus on particular types of investors and then looking for the properties that they wanted rather than looking for the properties that I was able to find and then try and find investors to match them. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. So if you're looking for investors first of all, then you're now bespoke sourcing. So you're looking for something that investor particularly wants within the niche you're offering. So to give an example, a niche might be high-end professional HMOs. So you're looking for investors with cash, that haven't got the time to do it and reliant on you to actually fulfill the deal. Now, you could just find the deal, and that's one element of deal sourcing, the basic element. But there are other elements to it which adds to the packaging side of things. So the basic process, the one that we teach, goes like this. You have an initial meeting with an investor. You will take possibly a holding deposit off them for that initial meeting. You will then potentially show them around the area that they're going to invest in. Not all investors take advantage of that. That's something that you can actually do. Take them around some of the deals you've already done, if you have done. But if you're just starting out, you want to give them an idea of what the area can offer and why they should invest there. Then, of course, you've got the finding of the deal. Once you've found the deal, you need then to package it up. Now, what that basically means is you're going to provide all of the due diligence for that investor. So all of the details on the area, the sales prices comparables, the lettings prices comparables, all those kind of things, so the investor can make an informed decision. So all the figures need to be there. That's best done if you can put together a mini brochure so it looks quite nice. You don't want to just have it on a basic email, which is really, quite frankly, it shows you haven't put the effort in for the kind of fees you're going to charge, which can be quite substantial. I'll come on to that in a second. So you've found the property, you've now packaged it, you provide all that information to the investor. If you've done your job correctly at the very first point of contact where you've had that initial day with them or time with them to explain to them what the service you offer and what you can offer them in terms of the types of properties and the niche you're working in, then you give them a time limit on which to respond to that property. And usually that's going to be about 48 hours. You're not trying to put pressure on them, but if you've already understood their requirements, you found a property that fits their requirements, then the making of the decision part shouldn't really take them that long. Of course, you should always suggest to them that they always carry out their own due diligence anyway. Let's assume they now accept that deal from you, where you now take over as part of the service that you're providing. This is what we call the armchair service for deal sourcing. You will appoint a solicitor, you'll get the investors to talk to your financial advisor, and you'll start the whole thing rolling so that they are literally an armchair investor. You're doing everything for them. Once all that's gone through, exchanged, completed on the contract, you get paid. Now, how much do you get paid? Well, when you're starting out, most people don't really charge enough, in my opinion. And I think you need to set your stall on the very first deal. Most commonly, that's going to be 2% of the purchase price or £3,000, whichever's the highest. If you're then going to do things after that completion date, and I would suggest you do if you're going to offer a full service to an armchair investor, because that's where you're going to earn the most money. And by that, I'm talking about the refurbishment of that property, because most of the properties that we look at, certainly from the HMO side, they're going to need some kind of refurbishment. That could be £50,000, £60,000 if we're going back to brick. Now, on that refurbishment, we're going to project manage them for them. But of course, we have our own teams, our power team that's going to go in now, builders, plasterers, decorators, electricians, plumbers, and so on. We're going to manage that for them. So we're going to be visiting the property on a regular basis, providing updates, photographic as well as video, so they can see what's going on with the property that they've entrusted that you to actually find and do this for them. Now, for that project management, you're going to charge another fee. Generally speaking, that's going to be about another 10%. Once you've then finished the refurbishment of the property, you probably want to provide some furniture as well. Certainly if it's an HMO, it may well be some furniture. Again, sourcing that furniture for them, that's going to be another fee. And then lastly, the tenanting of the property. Now, you may be lucky enough to have an HMO letting agency in your area. If you have, I would suggest you reach an arrangement with them to pass on those properties to them so that they can provide that level of the service at that end, the finding of the tenants. If not, why not consider setting up your own? If you're going to do sourcing as a serious business and do a lot of these types of properties, then it would make sense to have your own letting agency. And a lot of sources actually do that. But of course, that's another fee you could potentially earn. Now, I'm based in the southeast of the country, and in our area, we could potentially earn on one deal alone between £15,000 and £20,000. So you don't need that many deals to make this work. And on that, I'm talking an average purchase price of round about the 300 to 350, possibly £400,000. Obviously, in other areas of the country, I appreciate maybe a little bit cheaper, but the same principles apply of the fees that you can actually earn. So that's the basic concept behind providing a deal sourcing and packaging business and a full armchair service to your investor. All of that initial element is down to some marketing. Now, marketing to find investors and obviously marketing to find properties as well. And you'll need some negotiation skills. I hope you found that useful. If you have, please hit the like button below and also subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you get notified as to other videos when they arise. You'll also see some videos appearing on your screen right now which will help you in your property journey. That's it for now. Please post in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you if you're just starting out in deal sourcing and if you need some additional help. Thanks for listening.